The asterism known as Rhapsody represents mankind's future on the frontier of space. There are several factions with varying power across the asterism. This section will detail the most influential at a high level. Independent factions. Unaligned to any particular house, these entities exist outside the others. They are neither trade factions nor are they royals. Wielding uncommon influence, these four factions are not to be ignored. Red Corsairs are a new threat to traders passing through the clutter, but they have been spotted as far out as Bacht. The survey seeks to map the asterism, charting all objects in the region. The Universal Synod is the true power in the system. Their hold over the royals and deep secrets make them worthy of fear and respect. Zeros University, like their allies the survey, seeks knowledge above all else. Red Corsairs. Pirates led by the Red, they operate from a few hidden bases in the clutter. They like to prey on ships moving across the asteroid belt and to nearby planets. The Union will issue letters of marque to those who wish to earn bounties by hunting these terrorists, but this industry has been suppressed due to the recent sanctions placed against the Union. Formed a few standard years back, right after the assassination of Domo Kasaki and his entire retinue, the Red has never taken credit for the killings, but has likewise never denied it either. Sworn enemies of the Union, they have lately become affiliated with the clans, and have worked closely with them in restructuring the clans into tighter family groups. The Survey. A group of self-appointed cartographers, the survey seeks to discover, catalog, and make public the different features in the asterism. This group maintains a passive and non-territorial stance. Survey scout ships were the first to discover the anomaly around Zaitsev through remote detection. They have a few ships who have set up a perimeter to observe the anomaly. The survey is also responsible for constructing and maintaining the KNOT, the linked information network across the asterism. Their leadership structure is ruled by an individual known only as Uncle, whose whereabouts are presently unknown. He communicates via the KNOT, and his avatar looks like a slightly overweight human male with a heavy beard. The Universal Synod. The oldest religion in the region, dating back before history, they control the ancient sites like the relic on Ravenscairn and the lighthouse itself. Their genetic engineering ritual spawns the Vatborn, including all members of the royal houses. They are secretive in their upper ranks, but have churches on nearly every inhabited world. Their militant arm is made up of paladins, specially trained super soldiers, and crusaders who wear giant suits of powered armor. One paladin suit was lost in the clutter, and its operator's last transmission indicated that it was being attacked by Union ships. Through their influence with House Corvus, trade sanctions have been imposed on the Union until the suit is returned. The ruins on Belagost, with runes bearing similarity to the relic and the lighthouse, has been claimed by the Synod, but the dwarves from the Malachite Pride refuse to concede ownership. Consequently, a grand crusade is traveling to the innermost planet to exert their will upon the sovereign dwarves. Zeros University. A learning center dedicated to a variety of disciplines such as engineering, xenoarchaeology, and quantum wave functionality. This university rests on the moon of Zwolf, orbiting Hef. Their proximity to the dwarves of the Malachite Pride over Belagost places them in a very tight alliance between the two factions. It is this alliance that prompted the Thane of the Magmal ship Skeffelnacht to transmit the data gathered from the ruins on Belagost to them. Unfortunately, since the direct transceivers of the ship were damaged in a mutiny, the data was sent in a poorly encrypted package via the KNOT. This transmission was dipped by agents of the Synod, and rumors abound that implicate one of the university's professors. The current tension between the Synod and the Magmal Collective, which spawned the Grand Crusade, is a direct result of this act. Merchant factions. Independent from the royal houses, the merchant factions gather resources and/or manufacture goods for trade. Typically, their navies are composed of merchant marines, modified traders, upcycled freighters, and cargo haulers that are either overtly or covertly armed. The clans work as small groups mining the asteroid field for valuables and avoiding trouble. The Magmal Collective extracts heavy metals from the roiling lava on Belagost. The Reclaimers trade in body parts, organs, and cybernetics. Dominating trade in the clutter is the Workers' Union, a strong armed mafioso with access and distribution of most light metals and minerals in the Asterism. Clans of the Clutter. Family ships, unaffiliated with the Union, mine resources from the clutter and scrape by a subsistence living through salvage and high-value strikes. More and more of these families are becoming a part of the Union or being disbanded, destroyed, or otherwise ravaged. After the sanctions placed on the Workers' Union by House Corvus, these independent family ships are beginning to strike out for larger fares. They are becoming more organized under Timogen Landborn, and they are now forming small groups rather than operating as single ships. Magmal Collective. Based on the Malachite Pride in orbit over Belagost, the Dwarven-owned and operated mining and transportation cooperative extracts and processes the exotic metals from Belagost that form the backbone of most heavy construction in the Asterism. Loyal to the collective are the crews of the mining ships that prowl the surface of Belagost, and individual ships are often hundreds of years old and pass from one thane to the next. In general, the collective is both lawful and good, charging a reasonable but not exploitive profit. It is very protective of its exclusive rights to the planet and its resources, though, and allows very few outsiders to the surface of Belagost. The collective possesses significant naval power in the form of heavy transports that are armed to protect from pirates and can be refitted in hours for larger-scale conflicts. The Reclaimers. The Reclaimers are a merchant faction that trades in organs, biomatter, as well as cybernetics. Ubiquitous in their presence across the Asterism, they lack a home base per se, instead operating out of converted hospital ships. They can be found near many armed conflicts, serving both sides as paramedics paid in the corpses left by the conflict, as well as a fee for each recovery performed. The Reclaimer medics have been accused of rather harsh triage, sometimes letting someone die because they had a unique physiology or enhancement that was more valuable than the savior fee. The Workers' Union. If there is a government across the myriad rocks and settlements of the clutter, this mafioso is the closest thing to it. The leader at any time is the Domo, and presently Domo Rictus leads the organization after the death of his predecessor by the Red, almost 10 standard years ago. During his tenure, Rictus has ushered in the Union's greatest threat, the Red Corsairs. He has also seen the clans organize against them, and after sending one of his lieutenants to ambush a paladin heading to Belagost, has now run afoul of the Synod. The sanctions imposed on the Union by the Synod and House Corvus has crippled their revenue stream. Rumors of a violent overthrow are imminent, and unless Rictus can get a win soon, he will likely fall to the next in a line of criminals with just enough influence to organize the guild. Royal houses. While not all Vatborn are nobility, all nobles are Vatborn. They are harvested specially from the relic on Ravenscairn through secret rituals performed by the Universal Synod. They have distinctive appearances that are carried across their bloodlines, and while other humans and even Vatborn may share parts of these, the precise genetic engineering used by the relic ensures the critical genetic tags remain pure. In the ancient past, the houses were spawned at the relic and seeded to the planets in the system, where they set up their citadels and cities. Each house was granted sovereignty over a specific world by the Synod hundreds of years ago. House Akanos. Based on the red jungle world of Hef, House Akanos was gifted with the technology of genetomancy. They are masters of building and programming biotechnological adaptations into living creatures. Their rune of the eight-pointed flower is found in clinics across the Asterism and is generally viewed positively, even though some of their research focuses strongly on augmentations that may be seen by the Synod as abominable. Naturally opposed to the traditional medicines provided by House Cygnus, they are not in open hostilities, but rather have been developing a line of designer augmentations in an attempt to usurp controlling share over healthcare and development. The Reclaimers are affiliated but not directly a part of this house. Their practices are officially rejected by Akanos, but this house still pays handsomely for the biomaterials gathered by the mercenary clinicians. House Anguis. The colony planet of Bakht is an icy death world, but House Anguis has made it a home. They have built hidden cities into the packed carbon dioxide glaciers. Their complexes are kilometers below the surface, where geothermal fissures make the environment livable, if not natively comfortable. Deep within the packed ice, they discovered indigenous life forms that navigate the subglacial slush to hunt. Consequently, House Anguis shifted focus to develop devastating defenses, up to and including weaponry powerful enough to fight against these titans. They fund their continued operation through arms dealing and have multiple channels for R&D, manufacture, and distribution. The recent trade embargoes against the workers' union pose an existential threat to House Anguis, and while they oppose it officially, it is presumed they are still trading with the union through back channels. Among their strongest allies is House Cygnus, and the recent disposal and reincarnation of the royal family has placed a wider wedge between Anguis and the Synod. House Aquila. The third most influential house behind Corvus and Cygnus, Aquila controls the manufacturing arcologies on the desert world of Akune. Nearly every consumer product, from furnishing to glassware to clothing, is produced on Akune at the edge of the Shoban system. Much of the manufacturing is done using artificial labor, so the population of bioroids, androids, and SRO make up more than half of all life on the planet. Obviously, they are also the leading providers of automated labor, soldiers, and servants. House Aquila, while no doubt profitable and powerful, is almost universally despised by most of the other houses due to their reliance on artificial labor. House Arbor. The water-covered world of Rylus in the Shoban system contains continents in its temperate zone that produce much of the wealth of food staples for the entire Asterism. Vast fields of grains, vegetables, and fruits coexist with livestock ranches and even fishing fields and aquatic plant farms. Rylus is the breadbasket of the region and the second most populated world, just behind Ravenscairn. All worlds hold House Arbor in high regard, and they all have diplomatic relations that prevent price gouging for these most crucial commodities. Even broadcasting the flag of Arbor can get pirates to treat you better. While not exactly a military power, they do have a fleet of heavy transport vessels. Since ships larger than a shuttle are not permitted to breach the carefully regulated atmosphere of Rylus, the rocky ring around it hosts Anchorage, an automated trade hub and spaceport. House Corvus. Due to its position on the most populous world of Ravenscairn, House Corvus is the leading house in the Asterism, and they have been so since prehistory. The relic is the most notable feature on the surface, and its mystery and holiness pervades pop culture as well as mythology. The Universal Synod has a force permanently garrisoned to protect the relic, and their influence on House Corvus is as obvious as it is insidious. The current king, Leopold, has been feeling some friction from the Synod in the last years, but still understands his position as well as theirs. Their leading exports are open source software scripts and computer hardware. They are the leaders in development of the Knot and are often called upon to provide alternatives to the firmware on the automatons purchased from House Aquila. While respected for their power and alliance with the Synod, House Aquila as well as House Anguis have eyes on their power, but without a full siege and invasion of Ravenscairn itself, it is merely dark room talk. House Cygnus. The second most influential house has its homeworld on the jungle world of Zosiferus, where they have developed friendly relationships with the indigenous sapient populations. Much of the medicinal products used across the Asterism are harvested and processed here. While the Synod has some influence, many of the royals and most of the civilians also mix in indigenous religious rituals. With a more agrarian and naturalistic outlook, they incorporate living and grown weapons, armor, and other equipment. These items are, by their nature, suspicious and the source of much discomfort. After House Corvus and the Synod disbanded the previous leadership of this royal house a decade ago, the replacement harvest has pursued the living equipment research with fervor. One of the latest developments from this world is the prospect of living ships, based in part on a partnership with House Anguis and the biology of the extremophile titans indigenous to the icy slush of Bakht. Learn more about this setting at rhapsody.legendarybill.com.